Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Robby Row Show. You're listening to episode 74 with Brandon Bailey. Let's hear a soundbite from Brandon.
The reason why I go to Driveline and train in the off season is because they have the Edgertronic, they have the Rapsodo, the portable TrackMan, like all of that kind of information that I need that I use during the season to help me progress as a baseball player.
May I have your attention, please?
Give me a heater.
Now listening to Clear the Mechanism.
The Robby Row Show.
The Robby Row Show.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Robby Rowland here on the Robby Row Show. I got Brandon Bailey on the show. We first got introduced via Instagram. I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing that. But Brandon's a pitcher for the Houston Astros. He was drafted in 2016 from Gonzaga University, and he got drafted by the Oakland A's and then later traded to the Houston Astros, where he is currently at Corpus Christi, which is AA for the Astros. Brandon's got an interesting story just due to the fact that he is a 5'10", he says on a good day, pitcher. He says realistically 5'8". Those are his words, not mine, so it's fine. I could say that. So it's interesting, right? Like talking to a pitcher that is having success at a high level of professional baseball and doesn't really fit the standard prototypical, pitcher. So in this episode, we'll dive into how the Houston Astros kind of run their pitching staff across all the levels. We'll talk about, his experience with the Oakland A's, talk about his draft experience. He, obviously we'll dive into the whole story behind how he got traded, because that's just interesting in and of itself. And then we'll dive into, the whole Statcast Era, data analytics. I think it's no secret that the Astros are really big on that. They're really advanced as far as, being an organization in Major League Baseball, putting a lot of attention to, data analytics, and not just data analytics, but like Edgertronic cameras as well, to really get the most out of their athletes. And then we'll talk about how Brandon spins a fastball that he says averages around 2,700 RPMs, which to me is just like crazy, because I'm like on the opposite side of the spectrum. Like I'm super low spinner over here, guys. But yeah, man, it's a good episode. We'll talk for about 30 minutes. The day we recorded this, Brandon was actually starting that day, so a little bit pressed for time, but I appreciate him coming on the show even on a start day. I don't even know if I would do that. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys. If you guys didn't know already, my website is back up and running. I encourage you guys to check that out. You can find all of the links to that in the show notes, therobbyrowshow.com. I just produced my first ever ebook, which is like crazy to me. It's on my personal mobility routine. So if you're a guy that struggles with mobility, if you're a guy that wants to wants to dive into the realm of mobility but just doesn't know the correct things to do, I can give you my things that I do. From T-spine work, from morning routines, night routines, to gym routines, pre and post training routines, yoga stuff, FRC, dynamic warm-ups. All of the stuff that I do is in my ebook. Like I said, it'll be linked in the show notes, but robbyrowshow.com/ebook will take you right to the page. It's only $10, and you'll get, I want to say, like 30 plus videos as far as my mobility stuff goes. But yeah, so you can go check the website out. Like I said, therobbyrowshow.com. Go ahead and give it a gander. I'm trying to do like a blog / breakdown of an MLB pitcher a day, which is a lot of work. I didn't realize that. But yeah, guys, so appreciate you guys for tuning in today's episode with Brandon Bailey, and let's get right to it, guys. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, episode 74. I'm here with Brandon Bailey. Brandon, so you kind of just off the air explained to me this interesting dynamic that you call tandem starting, and I feel bad that I'm going to have you explain it all over again. But dude, that's like an interesting thing that the Houston Astros do. Do you mind telling like my audience kind of like what that is, why it is, and kind of why they believe in doing that?
Yeah, for sure. Basically what tandem starting is where you take roughly 8 to 10 pitchers, and they're all starters. And what you do is you pair them together. So you'd have 2 guys pitch game 1, 2 guys pitch game 2, and so on and so forth. And basically why the Astros do tandem starting is simply because they're trying to lower our innings and pitch count early on in the season and progressively build us up as the season goes. So, for example, most tandem guys, if you're the front end starter, so if you're the guy that starts the first inning, you're roughly going 75, 80 pitches and trying to get through the first 4 innings. Then we'll have a bridge reliever come in and bridge the gap of that 5th inning. And then the second tandem starter comes in for the innings 6 through 9. I personally find that advantageous for a couple of different reasons, kind of like we were talking before the show started. One thing that the majority of guys that get called up to the big leagues, most guys are starting pitchers in the minors. And then when they get called up to the big leagues, well, then they're put in the bullpen. And for a lot of guys, they've never pitched in the pen before. And it's something that, as you know, it's way different than being able to start, have your own pregame routine, go through a full bullpen, everything's scripted, and then you have, the anthem and all that different kind of thing. But then you might be a reliever, and in the big leagues get thrown in on the fly. We got runners on first and second, 1 out, Mike Trout's up, good luck.
Yikes.
What I mean?
So you're in a lose-lose situation.
Exactly. And so for me, that's one reason I really like the tandem concept, is because ever since I was a kid all the way through college and even these first couple of years into professional baseball, I've always been a starter. So kind of learning how to get my arm ready in like 5 minutes tops and then go into the game and try and get somebody out, that's been a huge challenge for me.
Right.
Just because I'm such a routine-based person. And if you talk to anybody in the Astros organization or Oakland or back at where I went to college at Gonzaga, they will absolutely vouch that I am a huge routine-based guy.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that it's awesome to have this tandem opportunity where I get to start 1 week and then the next week I'm coming out of the pen, but I'm still keeping my pitch count at that 75, 80 pitches. And then as the season progresses, they start building us up to, 90, 100 pitches. And then we start kind of breaking off into guys having their own games, having their own starts, and kind of more of a normal type of way of pitching staff is handled as the season progresses into July and August.
Right, dude. Yeah. You're talking to you're talking to the most routinist guy in the world. So I fully respect. You know what I think, and I think it's no secret now that everyone kind of knows. They look at the Astros and they're like, dude, they got to figure it out. I saw a stat. I think Driveline put out an article or a blog or something, and it showed the all the organizations and the draft that I don't know if you saw it. It's kind of hard to explain, but they did every organization, and they determined the value that they're getting out of the individuals that they draft. Yeah. And it was y'all were number 2. And I forget who's number 1. It was probably maybe the Braves. But it was that's an interesting stat. And the coolest thing that I think out of the tandem starting, man, is, as you probably agree with this as well, is you get a lot of young guys that go to a pro ball and they don't have a role established. And they just kind of, I'm talking from the pitching side, and they just kind of, even in the bullpen, they're like, well, I guess I could pitch today. If we're up by this many, I guess I could throw, or if we're down, I guess I can throw. And you get the most out of your guys when y'all know when you're going out there. I know the best that I've thrown in the bullpen has been okay, hey, Rob, you're the 8th inning guy, or you're the bridge guy, or whatever. And I think just establishing those type of roles for your pitchers is gives you guys the ability to know. And that's really the biggest thing for me going forward is I want to know when I'm throwing. And I know you have the anomalies sometimes that are the guys that, they're I don't want to know. I'm going to sleep until the 5th inning and then get out there and go. You, dude, I pulled up your baseball reference, and thanks for making me feel old, dude. You were born in 94?
Yeah, 1994.
Frick, dude.
No, you have no idea, man. And it's for me,
do you feel
old?
Yeah,
I feel old on the team that I'm on, because the Astros, they do not fool around. If they see that you're doing well in rookie ball, short season, low A, They push you really hard. And like we've got, heck, like some of the most talented guys on our team are 22, 23 years old. And here I am, 24. And you're like, I don't feel
Dude,
old.
you're
But then you start
24
looking,
and Dubs,
yeah,
bro.
I know. And, but that's for the Astros. You're like, man, I feel a little bit old. And that's it's just the reality of how the Astros do their business. You know, they push guys fast. They kind of challenge you in the upper levels, see if you sink or swim. And if it works out, great. If not, they're definitely preparing you for what your ultimate goal is going to be like. Like if you want to pitch in the big leagues, obviously there's that kind of talk that the jump from high A to double A is almost basically kind of the same, if not even a little bit bigger than going from like triple A to the big leagues. It's kind of that level where it's like, all right, this is kind of where you truly find out like if you can make it, you know what I mean? So they don't fool around, they don't waste your time, you know, and I actually respect that a lot. And I personally am somebody that as I continue to progress, the talent level continues to rise and you start to face the cream of the crop. I always seem to find a way to take my game to another notch or another level. And I always find a way to get better from that.
You have to. You know?
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, like you said, sink or swim, man. So drafted by Oakland in 2016.
Yep.
What was the move there? How'd you get to Houston?
So I pitched my first year and a half with Oakland. I pitched that first.
Beloit.
Yeah. Oh God, don't remind me.
I was trying to remember the hotel, the Road Dog Inn.
Oh, the Road Dog.
The Road
Dog. Yeah. Hey, the great breakfast though.
I did a food
Quality
challenge
breakfast.
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I try not to think about my 2 months, 3 months in Beloit as much as I can. But
well, you shoved. I mean, there's that.
That might have been the advantage of coming from a cold weather state and then coming from Gonzaga, also another cold weather state in Washington. And April, May, it's like 25 degrees in Beloit, and everyone else is freaking out. Like, how are we playing baseball right now? And I'm like, this actually
the Midwest League in general, man.
That different for me. Yeah. But yeah, so actually it's funny that you say Beloit because that's actually a reoccurring topic with all my current teammates here in Double A is like we start talking about, low A, high A, where some people play cool players you played against. And for me, everyone argues that I might have had the worst A-ball experience in terms of affiliates you could ever ask for. So I started in Vermont. And I don't know if you've ever been to Vermont in the Penn League.
I never was in the Penn League. I was on rehab, yeah.
Oh, that's an experience in itself. The clubhouse had dirt floors.
Oh, yeah.
We had wooden lockers. It was crammed, super tight. The showers were not ideal, super hot. The stadium was built in like the early 1900s. So like, it's like a classic stadium, it's kind of one of those, like you have like a little bit of, oh, wow, so-and-so played here back in 1907. Yeah, exactly. Or like, something like that. And, but the road teams, I guess like the showers always flooded into like where the lockers were and everything. So like when I was talking to some of my Astros teammates, they were like, yeah, man, that place is awful. And I was like, yeah, I can feel you on that. And then I go to Beloit and Low A, which needs no explanation by far, in my opinion. The worst possible place you can play in minor league baseball. And then we go to Stockton, California, which is in the Cal League. And you're like, oh, wow, California League, this is going to be awesome. You think like beaches, nice weather. Total opposite in Stockton. It's actually like super dry. You feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. It's
the ports,
so hot.
man.
The ports, man. But the stadium was nice. I'll give Stockton really that. The stadium was nice. But the thing is, though, is the surrounding area is kind of rough. It's not exactly the safest town I've ever been in.
Right.
And then also on top of that, in Stockton is where I finally had the minor league experience of four guys to a 2-bedroom apartment. Everyone's laying on air mattresses. We got lawn chairs as furniture, and we got the cardboard box and the TV we got on Craigslist set up in the living room, just the most. And then also, by the way, it's $500 a month for rent for each guy. And, as a minor leaguer, that really hurts. Something fierce.
Gotta love California, man.
Yeah. So then after my first year and a half with Oakland, I went back to Gonzaga University and I was working on finishing my degree in sport management. Yep. We knocked that out. I did that my first 2 off seasons. I went back after short season, did a semester, and then after my first full season, went and did a semester and graduated. So got that done. Got that.
Good for you,
out.
Man. Good for you.
I just know myself, and I was like, I'd rather not be 30 years old, probably have a family, going back to college with a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds. You know what I mean? I'd rather do it.
Yeah. I want to ask a question, dude. Like, sorry for interrupting, but like, that's an interesting topic, because like, I've never talked about that on my show, as far as like you getting drafted, and you get drafted your junior year. And so you have 1 year left, right? I mean, at that point where you get drafted, you have 1 year left.
1 year left of school, yep.
Yeah, and like most guys are like, I'm getting the F out of here, dude. Like, I'm finally free of this stuff. What was it? Yeah. And I know you said you knew yourself, and that kind of gave you a motive to go back. But like, was it one of those things that you knew all along when you were going through your draft process your junior year, that you were like, okay, I need to come back and I need to do this, and then you made sure that you got it in your contract from Oakland to pay for that schooling?
Yeah, so for me, I actually, going into the draft process, I actually had an internship lined up with Nike for Nike N7.
Yeah, you're a sneakerhead. That's right.
Yes, I'm a huge sneakerhead, and I actually landed a internship at the headquarters for that summer. And I told my boss going into it, I was like, hey, man, there's like a high possibility that I get drafted. So depending on how high I get drafted and the amount of money that I'm originally offered, like that's going to kind of depend on if I do the internship and go back to school for my senior year, or if I decide to forego my senior year and go play baseball, which ultimately would mean I can't do the internship. And so even going into the draft, like, school was extremely important to me, because I was like seriously considering going and doing this at Nike internship, playing my senior year at Gonzaga, finishing it out, and then trying the whole play professionally again thing when the time came. And so I talked it over with my agent. We sat down, and I was like, okay, this is the pick where I feel like the signing bonus, that's what it would have to take for me to give up my senior year in that Nike internship. Highlight the pick, and I cannot make this up, literally got drafted that pick 172 to Oakland, 6th round, and I was like, okay, this is destiny. This is what I'm supposed to do. But I made a promise to myself, if I'm going to go play professional baseball, I want to finish my degree. Like, I've worked so hard to not only get into a great school like Gonzaga University, but come as far as I have with my grades. And I've got 1 year left to knock this thing out. And it's really important to me that I do that, because as you know, and a lot of guys know, this game doesn't last forever as a player. And I want to be able to have something to fall back on when my playing career is over, and just jump right into my next career, rather than, okay, I'm done playing, now I got to go back to school and finish my degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that, just for me, I was like, it just makes sense. All of the material and everything that I've learned is still fresh in my mind. I can go into these, my final exams feeling confident that I didn't miss a beat, or had a 2, 3, 10-year gap, whatever you want to call it, and have to try and relearn everything. So it just made sense for me, and decided to do that. And during my last semester, it would have been right after the Astros won the World Series. I think it was 2 weeks after they won. I'm driving to class from my apartment, and I get a call, and it comes up on my truck screen. Area code is Oakland, California. I'm like, obviously this is the A's. I was like, I wonder why they're calling. It's November. They must be telling me when I need to go to spring training. Yeah. And I pick up the phone, and it's David Forrest, the general manager of the Oakland A's. And I was like, oh, this is quite a surprise. I don't normally talk to people like you. And he starts small talking me, asking how I'm doing, how's school going, everything like that. And we catch up for about 5 minutes, and he's like, well, I've got some pretty sad news. We're actually trading you to the Houston Astros. It's one of those things where we were kind of looking for 40-man depth, and we needed an outfielder. They have a guy we really like, and they decided that they wanted to go with you. It's a business. You can contact so-and-so from the Astros. They'll get all you squared away and everything like that. So hang up the phone, and I'm like driving, and I was like, did that really just happen?
It's unreal. It's like it's surreal, right?
Like,
Because you don't prepare yourself for a call like that.
No, and it's like I has gotten so comfortable with Oakland. I love my teammates, my coaches. Was really looking forward to that second full season and everything like that. And you're just like, wow, this is
reality.
A big change, And call my agent, and he's like, "You're joking, right? Like you're messing with me." I was like, "No, I swear." Like
he didn't even know.
He didn't know yet. He didn't know. That's how I think that trade literally must have happened that morning, and they called me, and it must have just gotten done because when I contacted the Astros, they were like, "Hey, the media release hasn't even happened yet. Like we're still getting all of this kind of stuff going. Don't tweet anything about it, like or anything like that." I was like, "Okay, yeah, no problem."
Right.
But it was a whirlwind, and but it was cool. Like I got traded for Ramon Laureano.
Yeah, he just made the best play in the history of the world.
In the history of baseball. Yeah. And then last year he had that play where he caught that fly ball, threw that guy out all the way from the warning track on a fly. Yeah.
Good trade, man. That's a good highlight for you in your career, though.
Yeah, and
I saw that and I was like, wow.
Yeah, for me, I was like, I didn't even know who this guy was. And then I kind of started looking him up and, I was like, okay, played in Double A, obviously sounds like a pretty good player. Yeah. And then like a month or two goes into the season and he's in the big league.
He's a dude.
Like, wow. Okay. I got traded for a big leaguer. That's kind of cool.
Now I got to live up to that expectation.
Exactly. And that was actually something when I got to Houston, I think I kind of put a little bit of too much pressure on myself, just like you said, trying to live up to that expectation of, okay, this is a guy that got traded for a big leaguer. And I already kind of like when I walk into a room, I don't exactly look like the spitting image, prototypical baseball pitcher that you would think,
5'10",
no, on a good day, that's what Spike's like. Actually, like I'm more like realistically, like I'm 5'8", 5'9", somewhere in that general vicinity. So for me, it's like you always kind of fighting that battle. As a shorter pitcher, like there's that stereotype, and thankfully for today's game, you see a lot of guys like Marcus Stroman, Sonny Gray, excuse me, and. Those two guys have been really like my huge role models. But they've kind of been the pioneers to kind of break that stereotype and be like, hey, just because we're under 6 foot tall doesn't mean we can't pitch, So that's kind of, for me, those expectations of being traded for a big leaguer and then trying to battle those stereotypes and overcome that. I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I think last year, my first year with Houston, I kind of started slower than I would have liked, but as we kind of picked up steam, got more familiar with my new coaches and my new teammates, we started to figure some things out, and now I couldn't be happier with the organization that I'm in.
Yeah, so I know Houston is big on like the data analytics, and without getting like too like fully dive down the rabbit hole of data analytics. What is it that Houston really saw in you or see in you? As far as like that side of the spectrum goes.
Yeah, so obviously I can't give away all of our secrets,
because everyone listens to this podcast. This one,
Totally.
No, like I mean, as far as your repertoire, because correct me if I'm wrong, four seam, fastball, changeup, spike, curve, slider.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's not a big secret. For me, I've always had like a really good fastball, kind of like what used to be known as a heavy fastball or late life to it, which essentially translates in today's game in Statcast Era. I have a really high spin rate on my fastball. I have the ability to create a lot of good hopping action, a lot of ride through the strike zone, get a lot of swing and misses, but I only sit like 91 to 94. You know what I mean?
Only.
And then well, you know how it is.
I know, it's crazy, bro.
It seems like you look at every single person in the big leagues is throwing 97.
Crazy.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. What am I doing?
But,
I'm going to play hockey.
And then, something else. So that's why. But, so then after my fastball, I've got what's the Houston described as a pretty elite changeup. And then my two breaking balls needed work. So Houston felt that the fastball and changeup were solid. Definitely something that they can work with. And then they can teach me how to throw a curveball and a slider. And that's still kind of my process. Last year was my first year in Houston, we really tried to develop a curveball, and now this year it's really focusing on the slider. I feel like their plan is working perfectly, and then it also just fit in perfectly with my development process because I knew that my 2 breaking balls were not exactly big league average when I first got drafted, and that was something that I was trying to work on with Oakland, and then came over to Houston. But so they just felt like I had a really good fastball with an elite spin rate and then a good changeup, and they felt like that was something that they could work with to try and develop these 2 other pitches to hopefully get me over the hump and create a repertoire that would have success in the big leagues.
Yeah. So if you don't mind me asking, like, what is your RPMs on your heater?
I threw live at Driveline during the off season, and I think my average spin rate on my fastball was like 2,700.
Jeez, OP.
Yeah, 26, 2,700 in that range. I think I threw one pitch at 2,800 on a fastball at those live ABs.
So I gotta ask, dude, for like for me to know, because I'm like, dude, I think last year when I got signed by Texas, they gave me like a sheet at the Rangers will give you a sheet like at the end of your starts, and it has like my data analytics on there. And I was throwing heaters, like I kid you not, dude. Like my average 2-seam was like 1,750.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's a change. Like people are spinning changeups like that, and I was like, what the heck's going on? So when you hold a 4-seam, are your fingers closed or are they?
My fingers are pretty close together. And then one thing that I'm trying to think about is actually having the 2 pads of my pointer finger and middle finger resting directly on top of the lace. You see a lot of guys that get it more in that first knuckle or actually like
that crevice, right?
The lace. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I do.
And,
man.
Yeah, and for me, like I'm actually trying to feel my fingertips on the lace specifically, so that way if you do it like with a baseball in your hand,
I got it right
experiment now. This, like if you start weird. To roll the baseball off your fingers, you can notice that you're actually at right when the ball's about to come off, you're actually pulling down directly on the crevice of that lace. So I that's how I hold it, and I'm thinking about trying to really feel my fingers pulling down on that lace to try and create that backspin action. And then obviously, like, if you throw a 2-seam, you're only working with 2 seams that are going through the air, whereas the 4-seam, you can kind of pull down on those laces and you use those 4 seams to create the backspin. So 2 seams typically have a little bit lower spin rate, but then you also have a lot of arm fade in action, whereas my ball doesn't do that. My more so is kind of just straight, but it has that hopping action, kind of like so the hitter perceives that it's going up, but it's actually just defying gravity and just holding its plane.
Do you not get like super bad blisters on your fingers from doing that?
Not at all. Not at all. I just my fingers are never had a problem with it. That's just kind of how I've always thrown the baseball, and they've never had an issue.
That's interesting because like even me just sitting here like playing with that, I feel like. And this is probably why my 2-seam moves a good bit, is like my middle finger is like 18 inches longer than my index. So for me to like get my fingertips on that seam would be like I have to shift the ball a little bit. And then I was like just feeling like that would.
It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, but it's what works for me, and it makes me a little bit unique, and I'm very thankful for that.
I love that about the game of baseball, though. It's like
for sure. Whatever works for you.
I know I don't want to like dive too much deeper into like the Astros, but I am curious, like when. Are they like advanced as far as like the technology goes? Like, are they using like TrackMan? They're using Edgertronic cameras, and they're like all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend like, oh, what is Edgertronic? What is TrackMan? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's no secret that the Astros are probably.
Oh no, it's out there.
Like, light years ahead. Like Kyle, like you talk to Kyle Bodie, the founder of Driveline, he'll tell you. The Astros and the Dodgers are light years ahead in terms of technology, data analytics, and all of that kind of stuff. So, Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's the reason why I go to Driveline and train in the off season is because they have the Edgertronic, they have the Rapsodo, the portable TrackMan, like all of that kind of information that I need that I use during the season to help me progress as a baseball player. So yeah, it's no secret the Astros are doing some pretty incredible things. I'm extremely thankful to be a part of it. Hopefully for all you listeners out there that are hoping to play professional baseball one day, I can tell you that the Astros would be a fantastic team to play for in terms of your player development, because they're doing some pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah, I mean that just like that brings up another point too, as far as like my listeners who probably 80% of them are ball players, aspiring professional ball players, and it's like everyone's just too good now. It's like you have to put yourself in the drive lines or in the facilities that are paying attention to your data analytics, paying attention to your the super 960 frames per second cameras to really find the underlying issues within your delivery and like all of that stuff. I mean it's just the era that we're in, man, where it's like, it's funny, you look even just like a decade ago, when right around the time that I was getting drafted, and I'm old, but it was like, oh, this guy throws 95, like, yep, first round, ready you go. There's no question.
It used to be just one thing, and now there's so many different ways to evaluate players. And I, like you said, I don't feel like younger players need to feel necessarily that pressure to, okay, I've got to start throwing, plyo care balls and get myself an Edgertronic and a Rapsodo, and I'm 13 years old. You know what I mean? I don't feel like that's necessarily the case. I still think that there is value in learning the game the way everybody learns the game, which is just playing catch, starting with the basics. My biggest advice when I talk to young kids and that are aspiring baseball players is watch the game. Watch the way professional baseball players play the game. Watch MLB games, go to MLB games. If you just pay attention to like simply and just like try and like mimic the way that they throw a baseball, I promise you that it's probably going to do a lot more good than bad. You know what I mean? And I just feel like you got to have a little bit of uniqueness to yourself as well. If you look at it, there's no cookie cutting approach in the MLB. Clayton Kershaw does not throw the exact same way as Aroldis Chapman, but they both are elite pitchers in the big leagues. You know what I mean?
Right.
There is so many different ways to get people out, so many ways to hit a ball, 400 feet, like I said, Stanton does it differently than Judge. Even like you look at two guys on the same team, very different swings, but two great hitters. I just feel like there's a lot of value in just simply watching the game. And that's how, like, for me, I grew up watching the Colorado Rockies. And I remember my favorite hitter was Todd Helton. And even though I hit right-handed, I tried to mimic kind of like the way Todd Helton swung a baseball bat. And for a while there, like, it worked out really well as I was growing up through my youth ranks. And then obviously you get into high school, and that's where you kind of start separating yourself and need to be a little bit more detailed and fine-tune, like, all of, like, the mechanical and like technical stuff within your approach, and truly start diving into the game, because that's where you start trying to kind of separate yourself. But yeah, I mean, I think technology is great. I think it's an awesome thing where you see now more and more players are getting better and better. But at the same time, I feel like there is a lot of value in just kind of picking the baseball up and trial and error.
Simplicity, man, really.
Yeah, exactly.
We can complicate it all we want, but it doesn't have to be. All right, dude, I want to be respectful of your time. So I appreciate you coming on the show, man. And dude, best of luck tonight. I'll be sure to tune in.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. It's been fun, dude. So yeah, man, best of luck tonight. Thanks for coming on the show, and you and I will be in touch moving forward, brother.
All right, sounds good. Thanks again.
Yeah, man. Have a good one. See you.
Hey.
All right, guys, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, then I would highly encourage you and highly appreciate you if you left a review for this episode. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's anything that you need me to improve on. Let me know if there's anyone that you want me to bring on the show. Like I said in the introduction, that you can always find me on Instagram at Robby Row 12. and also my website, www.therobbyrowshow.com. So be sure to go check those means of communication out, and we will talk to you probably within the next couple of days, and I look forward to it. Y'all have a good rest of your day. Much love. God bless. Talk to you.